Captain Deho stared at the message screen for the third time in 10 minutes, and the words had not changed at all, which made his stomach feel heavy like he had swallowed rocks from his home planet. The message was short and simple, but those simple words carried weight that made his hands shake as he held the data pad and read the same 5 lines again and again, hoping they would somehow say something different, but knowing they would not: return home immediately and tell no one why, and destroy all records of current mission and contact. No alien vessels or stations, and confirm receipt, then maintain complete silence until you reach Earth. He had been trading with the Vegan merchants for 3 years now, and his cargo hold was full of rare metals that would make his company rich beyond their wildest dreams. But none of that mattered now because Earth was calling him home. And when Earth called, you did not ask questions. Deho walked to the bridge where his crew of 12 humans worked, quietly at their stations, and he could see the worry in their eyes because they had all received similar messages and they all knew something big was happening, but no one wanted to be the first to speak about it. The communications officer was a young woman named Haye Jin, who had joined his crew only 6 months ago, and she looked up at him with wide eyes that held too many questions. "Captain, we are getting similar messages from every human ship in this sector, and they all say the same thing about returning home immediately. But none of the alien vessels seem to know what is happening." Deho nodded and walked to his command chair while looking out at the busy spaceport through the main window where dozens of alien ships moved, like metal fish through the black ocean of space. "Set course for Earth immediately, and send our confirmation message, then cut all external communications." And he paused before adding the next words, which felt strange in his mouth, like speaking a foreign language. "We are going dark until we reach home." The next few hours passed like a strange dream where everything looked normal, but felt completely wrong, and Deho watched as other human ships began leaving the station one by one without explanation or goodbye. Ambassador Young Mi stood in the main hall of Kepler Station and watched the alien delegates celebrate with drinks and loud laughter that echoed off the metal walls like the sound of breaking glass. The Hegemony Council had been meeting for 3 days to discuss trade disputes and territorial rights, but now they were celebrating something entirely different, and she could hear their conversations, even though she tried not to listen. "Finally, the humans are gone, and we can divide their territories properly without their constant interference and complaints about our methods." The tall blue alien from the Rigel system raised his glass high above his head, and his voice carried across the room like thunder. "Today marks the beginning of a new age where reasonable species can work together without the chaos that humans always bring to every negotiation." Young Mi felt her jaw clench tight as she heard these words, but she kept her face calm and professional, like her training had taught her, because showing emotion now would be dangerous. She had spent 15 years building relationships with these alien governments and helping to create trade agreements that benefited everyone involved. But now, she was watching it all fall apart in a single afternoon. Her personal communicator buzzed against her wrist, and she looked down to see a message that made her heart beat faster than it should. "Pack only essential items and report to Docking Bay 7 in 1 hour for immediate transport to Earth, and maintain diplomatic protocols, but prepare for extended absence from all alien contact." The message was signed by Director Moonsick from the Diplomatic Corps, and she had never seen a recall order like this in her entire career. Young Mi walked slowly back to her quarters while trying to look casual and unworried, but inside her mind was racing with possibilities, and none of them were good. She packed her few personal belongings into a small bag and thought about the years she had spent learning alien languages and customs, and building the trust that was now crumbling around her, like sand castles at high tide. Admiral Jin Woo stood in the command center of Luna Base and watched the massive displays that showed every human ship in known space as tiny dots of light moving slowly toward home. The recall operation was going better than expected, and 93% of all human vessels had confirmed receipt of their orders and begun immediate return journeys. His aide, Commander Subin, approached with a datapad that contained hourly updates from across the galaxy. "Sir, all diplomatic personnel are being extracted successfully, and most trading operations have been suspended, without incident. But we are getting reports of alien celebrations in several sectors." Jinwoo nodded, because this was exactly what they had expected would happen when humanity appeared to retreat from galactic affairs. "The aliens think we are weak, or broken, or running away scared, but they have no idea what we are really doing or why we need everyone to come home right now. He turned to look at the sealed blast doors that led to the lower levels of the base, where Project Silence waited in, the darkness like a sleeping giant. 30 years of preparation and research and testing had led to this moment when humanity would finally have the tools they needed to face what was coming. The project had started as a simple defense initiative, but had grown into something much larger and more complex as the years passed and the threats from deep space became more real. Subin cleared her throat softly to get his attention. Admiral, the last civilian transports from the outer colonies will arrive within 72 hours and all military vessels should be in system within 1 week. Good, and make sure all incoming ships are directed to the hidden facilities and not the regular ports, because we cannot let anyone see how many people we are really bringing home. The final phase would begin once every human was safely inside Sol system, and the galaxy would learn that Earth had not been conquered or destroyed, but had simply been getting ready. Captain Deho felt the familiar vibration through the ship's hull as they dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Sol system, and he could see Earth hanging in the distance like a blue jewel against black velvet. But something was different about the approach vectors, and instead of being directed to the normal shipping lanes, they were being guided toward coordinates that did not match any known facility. Hyajin looked up from her station with confusion written across her face. Captain, we are being directed to dock at a station that does not appear on any of our charts, and the identification codes are military grade. Follow their instructions exactly, and ask no questions because we are home now. And that is all that matters, until someone tells us what is really happening. The space around Earth looked normal to casual observation, but Deho had been flying these routes for 20 years, and he could tell that something had changed, even if he could not identify what it was. As they approached the mysterious station, he saw other human ships from across the galaxy, and recognized several captains he had known for years, but none of them were using normal communication channels. The docking procedure was handled entirely by automated systems, and once they were secured, inside the station, Deho felt like he was inside the belly of some enormous sleeping creature. A voice came over the internal communication system, and it belonged to someone with authority that made everyone on the bridge stand straighter. Welcome home, and prepare for debriefing, and your service to humanity during this critical time will not be forgotten. And Earth thanks you for your quick response to the recall order. The voice paused for a moment before continuing with words that made Deho understand that everything had changed forever. The galaxy thinks we are gone, but they are about to learn that humanity was never stronger than we are right now. Captain Tae Young floated in the command center of his ship and watched the alien salvage fleet approach the human colony on Kepler Prime through sensors that the aliens could not detect even if they were looking directly at his vessel. 6 months had passed since Earth went silent, and the galaxy had finally worked up enough courage to start claiming what they thought were abandoned human territories. His ship was part of the Shadow Fleet, and it used technology that bent light and energy around the hull, making them completely invisible to all known detection methods. The aliens had no idea they were being watched and recorded and studied like insects under a microscope. Tae Young had been observing alien movements throughout human space for 3 months now, and what he saw made him both angry and sad because these creatures had no understanding of what they were really dealing with. The lead alien ship was transmitting to its fleet in the crude trade language that most species used for communication. Begin salvage operations immediately and strip all valuable materials and technology. But be careful because humans might have left traps or automated defenses. Tae Young almost smiled at this because the aliens were right. To be worried about traps but wrong about what kind of traps they might find. His communications officer, Lieutenant Minho, turned toward him with excitement in his voice. Sir, the aliens are entering the colony now and their bioscanners are showing the same readings we expected. On the main display screen, they could see the alien soldiers moving through the empty streets of New Sol Colony, where 10,000 humans had lived and worked only 6 months ago. The buildings were intact and clean, and the aliens found meals still sitting on tables in the restaurants and children's toys scattered in the playgrounds, and everything looked like people had just vanished into thin air. But that was exactly what Earth wanted them to see. The truth was much more complex and much more impressive than simple disappearance. Every human civilian in the colony had been relocated to massive underground cities hidden beneath the surface and connected by tunnels that the aliens would never find. Surface colony was maintained by advanced robots that looked and acted exactly like humans from a distance, but would shut down and hide when alien ships approached. It had taken 3 years to build the underground facilities, and another 2 years to perfect the evacuation procedures, but now it worked like a perfectly tuned machine. The aliens wandered through empty houses and offices looking for clues about where the humans had gone, but finding nothing except the normal remains of daily life. One alien soldier picked up a cup of coffee that was still warm, thanks to automated heating systems, and he spoke into his communicator with confusion. This makes no sense because the coffee is fresh, but there are no heat signatures or life signs anywhere in the colony. His commander responded with frustration that Tae-young could hear clearly through their intercepted communications. Keep searching, and there must be evacuation records or transportation logs somewhere that will tell us where they went. Dr. Sora worked in a laboratory hidden deep inside an asteroid that had been hollowed out and converted into a research facility that was larger than most space stations. She was part of the Shadow Fleet program, and her job was to develop the weapons and technologies that would keep Earth safe when the real war began. The laboratory was one of 50 similar facilities scattered throughout the solar system, and each one focused on different aspects of humanity's defense. Preparation. Sora specialized in quantum manipulation technology that could alter the basic properties of matter and energy in ways that no alien species had ever imagined possible. Her latest project was a device that could make entire planets appear empty and lifeless while actually being full of hidden activity. The device worked by creating quantum fields that interfered with all forms of detection and scanning, making it impossible for anyone to tell what was really happening on the surface. She called it the Ghost Field Generator, and it had already been deployed to 12 former human colonies, making them appear abandoned when they were actually more active than ever before. Her assistant researcher, Hyun Woo, brought her the latest test results from the prototype installations. Doctor, the field generators are working perfectly, and alien survey teams report finding no signs of human activity, while our hidden populations continue normal operations. Sora nodded with satisfaction, because this technology would be crucial when the aliens finally decided to invade human space in larger numbers. The ghost field generators were just one part of humanity's much larger plan, but they were an important part because they would allow human populations to hide in plain sight. She turned back to her work on an even more advanced project that would make the ghost fields look simple by comparison. Lieutenant Hyun Soo piloted his stealth fighter through the outer edges of the Vegan system where a large alien fleet had gathered for what appeared to be military exercises. His ship was smaller than most civilian transports, but it carried sensors and recording equipment that could gather more intelligence than an entire spy network. The stealth technology made his fighter completely invisible and silent, so he could fly within a few kilometers of alien warships without being detected. What he saw during these reconnaissance missions was both encouraging and worrying for humanity's future. The aliens were clearly preparing for war, but they had no idea how unprepared they really were for fighting humans. Hyun Soo watched alien pilots practice combat maneuvers that were outdated by human standards and listened to their communications, which revealed battle plans that had obvious weaknesses. But he also saw that they had large numbers of ships and soldiers and weapons, which meant they could cause significant damage even if they were not very skilled. His ship's computers automatically recorded everything he observed and transmitted the data back to Earth through quantum communication channels that could not be intercepted. The intelligence reports he filed helped Earth's military planners understand exactly what they would be facing when the shooting finally started. After 6 hours of observation, he turned his fighter toward home and engaged the faster-than-light drive that would get him back to Sol system in less than a day. As he traveled through hyperspace, Hyun Soo thought about the aliens he had been watching and felt almost sorry for them because they had no idea what was waiting for them. Earth had spent 6 months preparing for war, while the aliens spent 6 months celebrating their victory over humanity. It was going to be a very short war. The alien fleet that had been gathering in the Vegan system finally received orders to advance toward Sol system and begin the invasion of Earth. Their commander was a veteran of 12 planetary conquests, and he expected this to be the easiest victory of his career because humans had already shown they were too weak to defend their own territories. His fleet consisted of 200 warships and 50,000 soldiers and enough firepower to crack a planet's crust if necessary. As they approached the edge of Sol system, the commander sent a message to his superiors confirming their arrival and requesting permission to begin the attack. We have reached the target system and detect no defensive installations or military vessels, and Earth appears to be completely undefended as intelligence reports suggested. The response came back within minutes and carried the authority of the Hegemony Council itself. You are authorized to proceed with planetary conquest and establish occupation government immediately. The alien fleet moved deeper into Sol system, expecting to find a few desperate humans hiding on their homeworld and ready to surrender without a fight. But Lieutenant Hyunsu was watching from his hidden position near Jupiter and recording everything they did. The aliens had no idea that their every move was being observed and analyzed and reported back to Admiral Jinwoo, who was waiting patiently for them to come within range. Earth looked peaceful and defenseless as the alien fleet approached, but appearances could be very deceiving, especially when humans were involved. The invasion fleet took standard positions around Earth and began broadcasting surrender demands that no one answered. They waited for 6 hours and then 12 hours and then 24 hours. But received no response from the planet below. Finally, their commander decided to land troops on the surface and take control of the major cities by force. That was exactly what Earth had been waiting for. General Yeon Seo stood in the deep command center buried 3 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean and watched the alien invasion fleet position itself around Earth like predators circling wounded prey. 10 months had passed since the silence began, and everything was proceeding exactly according to the plan that had taken 30 years to develop and perfect. The aliens thought they were looking at a defenseless planet, but they were actually staring at the most sophisticated trap in galactic history. Her command center was connected to similar facilities hidden throughout Sol system, and each one controlled different aspects of humanity's response to alien aggression. The walls around her displayed images from thousands of hidden sensors that tracked every alien ship and soldier and weapon as they prepared for what they believed would be an easy conquest. Yeon Seo turned to her intelligence officer, Commander Dong Hyun, who had just returned from a 2-year deep cover mission. An alien space report on enemy capabilities and intentions based on your observations. Dong Hyun activated the holographic display that showed detailed analysis of 12 different alien military forces. General, the aliens have superior numbers and adequate technology, but their tactics are primitive, and their commanders lack imagination, and they have no understanding of human capabilities. He manipulated the display to show battle formations and weapon specifications that his teams had gathered during months of careful observation. Most importantly, they believe we are extinct or fled to another galaxy, and they expect no resistance whatsoever from Earth. Yeon Seo nodded because this matched all their other intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The aliens had grown comfortable and careless during the months of human silence, and now they would pay the price for underestimating their opponents. She activated the communication system that connected her to every hidden facility, and every secret base and every concealed weapon platform in Sol System. All stations. This is Deep Command, and Operation Silent Thunder is now authorized and proceed to Phase 1 implementation immediately. The response came back from dozens of locations. As commanders confirmed, they were ready to begin the most complex military operation in human history. Engineer Boram worked in a facility that officially did not exist and was building weapons that would redefine what war meant in the 26th century. Her laboratory was hidden inside a small moon orbiting Saturn, and it contained manufacturing equipment that could create materials stronger than anything found in nature. She was the lead designer for Project Silence Maker, which had developed weapons that could eliminate entire enemy fleets without destroying a single ship. The Silence Makers worked by disrupting the quantum fields that held matter together, but they did it so precisely that they could target specific systems while leaving everything else untouched. A warship hit by a Silence Maker would lose power and life support and communications, but the hull would remain intact and the crew would be unharmed, but completely helpless. Boram had spent 3 years perfecting the targeting systems that could strike hundreds of ships simultaneously from distances that made retaliation impossible. Her assistant Ji-Wan brought her the final test results from the prototype weapons. Engineer. All systems are operating within acceptable parameters, and we have confirmed effectiveness against every type of alien technology encountered. So far, Bo-Ram smiled because she knew that the aliens approaching Earth had no defense against weapons they could not detect or understand. The silence. Makers had been deployed throughout Sol system months ago, and they were waiting patiently for targets to come within range. She activated her personal communicator and sent a message to General Yeon Seo, confirming that all weapon systems were ready for activation. The aliens were about to learn that silence could be much more dangerous than any amount of noise. Specialist Dong Hyun had spent 2 years living among the aliens and learning their languages and customs and weaknesses. He was part of a deep infiltration program that placed enhanced humans inside alien governments and military organizations and commercial enterprises. The enhancement process had changed his appearance and biology enough that he could pass for several different alien species while retaining all his human intelligence and determination. During his mission, he had discovered something that changed everything. Humanity thought they knew about galactic politics. The aliens were not naturally aggressive or warlike, but had been influenced by a parasitic species that fed on conflict and violence. These parasites were microscopic organisms that attached themselves to alien brain tissue and altered behavior patterns to increase hostility and reduce empathy. Parasites had been spreading through the galaxy for thousands of years and were responsible for most of the wars and conflicts that plagued interstellar civilization. Dong Hyun had managed to capture samples of the parasites and transmit the data back to Earth, where xenobiologists were developing countermeasures. The discovery meant that most alien species could potentially become allies once they were freed from parasitic influence. But first, humanity would have to demonstrate their power, convincingly enough that the parasites could not simply start another war. He stood in the shadows near the alien fleet's command ship and watched their final preparations for the invasion of Earth. The alien commander was clearly under strong parasitic influence because his behavior showed all the classic symptoms of artificial aggression enhancement. Dong Hyun activated his stealth suit and moved closer to the ship's communication array, where he could monitor all incoming and outgoing messages. He heard confirmed that several alien species were planning to arrive with reinforcement fleets once Earth was conquered. The aliens intended to strip mine the entire Sol system and enslave any surviving humans for use in their labor camps. But Dong Hyun knew something they did not know, which was that no reinforcements would be coming, because humanity had been very busy during the months of silence. His mission was almost complete, and soon he would return to Earth to help with the final phase of Operation Silent Thunder. The alien invasion fleet had been orbiting Earth for 18 hours, and their commander was growing impatient with the lack of response from the planet below. He ordered his troops to begin landing operations in major population centers while maintaining orbital bombardment capability in case of unexpected resistance. The first wave of alien transports descended through Earth's atmosphere toward cities that appeared completely empty and defenseless, but as they approached the surface, something very strange began to happen. The transport's engines started failing one by one, and their communication systems went silent, and their navigation computers stopped working. Within minutes, the entire first wave was floating helplessly in Earth's atmosphere like leaves falling from a tree. The alien commander tried to contact his landing forces but received no response from any of the transport ships. He ordered the second wave to launch immediately, but those ships suffered the same mysterious failures as soon as they entered the upper atmosphere. On the surface of Earth, the cities appeared as empty as ever, but deep underground, millions of humans watched the alien ships fall from the sky like broken toys. The Silence Maker weapons worked exactly as Bo-Ram had designed them, and every alien vessel within Earth's atmosphere lost all power and control systems simultaneously. The aliens were not killed or injured, but they were completely helpless and unable to communicate with their fleet or each other. Admiral Jin Woo watched from Luna Command as the alien invasion fleet tried desperately to understand what was happening to their ships. He opened a communication channel to General Yeon Seo, who was coordinating the defensive operations from her Deep Ocean Command Center. General, the first phase is complete, and all alien landing forces have been neutralized without casualties on either side. Excellent, Admiral. And now we proceed to Phase 2 and show them what happens when someone threatens Earth. Jin Woo activated the holographic display that showed the positions of every human ship and weapon platform hidden throughout Sol system. For 10 months, the aliens had believed that humanity was extinct or fled. But the truth was that Earth had been building the most powerful military force in galactic history. Now it was time to reveal what human silence had really been hiding. Admiral Kyung-ho stood on the bridge of the battleship Sol's Fury and watched as 300 human warships materialized out of empty space around the confused alien invasion fleet. The stealth technology that had kept the Solar Defense Force hidden for 10 months was now being deactivated in a carefully choreographed display of power. Each human ship that appeared was larger and more advanced than anything the aliens had ever seen, and they carried weapons that could reshape the basics, laws of physics. The alien commander tried frantically to contact his superiors but found that all his communication systems had been jammed by technology. He could not identify or counter. Kyung-ho activated his ship's external broadcast system and spoke directly to the alien fleet in their own language. You came here expecting to find Earth defenseless and humanity extinct, but you were wrong about both assumptions, and now you will learn what human silence really means. The alien fleet tried to retreat, but discovered that their faster-than-light drives had been disabled by the same mysterious force that had crippled their landing craft. They were trapped in Sol system with no way to escape and no way to call for help. Kyung-ho continued his broadcast with words that carried the weight of 30 years of preparation. Your ships and crews will not be harmed if you surrender immediately, but any attempt to resist or escape will result in your complete capture. The alien commander had no choice but to order his fleet to stand down and prepare for boarding operations. Within 6 hours, every alien ship had been secured by human marines, and every alien soldier had been taken into custody without a single shot being fired. Dr. Hae-won worked in the xenobiology laboratories beneath Luna City, where she led teams of scientists studying the captured aliens. Her research had revealed the truth about the parasitic organisms that were controlling alien behavior, and she was developing treatments that could free entire species from artificial aggression. The aliens brought to her laboratory were confused and frightened because they could not understand what had happened to their invasion fleet. But as her medical teams removed the parasites from their brain tissue, the aliens began to change in remarkable ways. The first alien to be treated was a young soldier from the Rigel system who had been part of the advanced reconnaissance team after the parasite removal procedure. He looked around the medical bay with clear eyes for the first time in years. Where am I, and what happened to my fleet? And why do I feel so different than before? Hae-won explained gently that he had been freed from an organism that had been controlling his thoughts and emotions. The parasites make your species aggressive and violent, but that is not your natural behavior, and now you can think clearly without their influence. The alien soldier began to cry as he realized what the parasites had made him do during years of military service. I remember attacking peaceful colonies and destroying cities full of innocent people, but I thought it was necessary for our survival. Hae-won placed a comforting hand on his shoulder because she had seen this reaction from dozens of other freed aliens. The parasites convinced you that violence was the only solution, but now you know better, and you can help us save your entire species. Her research teams were working around the clock to develop mass treatment, procedures that could be deployed across the galaxy. The goal was not to conquer alien civilizations, but to free them from the parasites that had been causing wars for thousands of years. Commander Soo-jin operated from a secret facility that coordinated intelligence networks throughout alien space. Her agents had been embedded in every major alien government and military organization for over a year. The enhanced humans under her command looked like aliens, but thought like humans, and they had been gathering information that would reshape galactic politics forever. During the months of Earth's silence, her agents had identified the source of the parasitic infection and traced it to a species that had been spreading the organisms deliberately. The parasite controllers lived in the dark regions between galaxies, and they fed on the psychic energy released during violent conflicts. They had been manipulating dozens of species for millennia and turning the galaxy into their personal feeding ground. Soo-jin had documented everything her agents discovered, and the evidence would prove that most alien aggression was artificial and could be cured. She activated her communication system and contacted her deep cover agents in 12 different alien governments. All stations. This is control and prepare for information release in coordination with Earth's diplomatic initiative. The response came back from across the galaxy as her agents confirmed they were ready to reveal the truth about the parasites. The information would be released simultaneously to every major news network and government communication system. The aliens would learn that their enemies were not other species but the parasites that had been controlling them. Su Jin smiled because she knew that this revelation would end most conflicts in the galaxy overnight. When species realized they had been manipulated into fighting each other, they would turn their anger toward the real enemy. The alien governments that had sent the invasion fleet to Earth were beginning to worry because they had received no reports from their forces. 3 days had passed since the fleet entered Sol system, and there had been complete communication silence. The Hegemony Council called an emergency session to discuss what might have happened to their invasion force. The representatives from 12 species gathered in their orbital meeting station and argued about possible explanations. Maybe the humans had some kind of weapon that destroyed our fleet completely, but that seems impossible given their primitive technology. The delegate from Vega Prime disagreed with this assessment. Our intelligence reports showed that Earth was completely defenseless, and our fleet should have conquered the planet within hours. The council chamber filled with nervous conversations as the delegates tried to understand what could have gone wrong. Finally, the council leader decided to send a second fleet to investigate what had happened to the first one. But before the new fleet could be assembled, they received a transmission that changed everything. The message came from Earth, and it was broadcast simultaneously to every alien government in known space. President Minho appeared on their communication screens, looking calm and confident as he spoke. To all members of the galactic community, we regret that it has become necessary to demonstrate our capabilities, but your invasion of Earth left us no choice. The alien delegates stared at the screen in shock because they had assumed all humans were dead or missing. Minho continued with words that made their blood run cold. Your invasion fleet is safe and unharmed, but they are now our guests, and they will remain so until we can resolve the larger issues that led to this conflict. The message included video footage of alien ships being escorted by massive human warships that dwarfed anything in their own fleets. We have discovered that your species have been influenced by parasitic organisms that increase aggression and reduce empathy. But we have developed treatments that can free you from this control. The aliens in the council chamber looked at each other with growing understanding and horror as they realized what the humans were telling them. Many of your recent conflicts and wars were not caused by natural disagreements but by artificial manipulation. And we have evidence that will prove this to anyone who wishes to see it. Minho paused to let this information sink in before delivering his final message. Earth offers friendship and cooperation to any species that wishes to be freed from parasitic influence, but we will defend ourselves against any who choose to remain under their control. Transmission ended, and the alien council sat in stunned silence as they tried to process what they had just learned. Dr. Haywan received authorization to begin treating the alien prisoners, and within days the change in their behavior was remarkable. The Yao freed aliens begged to contact their home governments and warn them about the parasites. They volunteered to help develop better treatment procedures, and some even asked to join the human military forces. The transformation was so complete that even the human guards had trouble believing these were the same creatures who had tried to invade Earth. Admiral Kyung-ho prepared his fleet for the next phase of Operation Silent Thunder, which would take the fight directly to the parasite controllers. Alien governments would have to choose between accepting human help or facing the consequences of continued aggression. But Kyung-ho suspected that once the truth was revealed, most species would choose cooperation over conflict. The galaxy was about to learn that human silence had not meant weakness, but preparation for the most important war in galactic history. President Minho stood before the assembled leaders of 47 alien species in the Great Hall of Kepler Station, and the silence in the room was so complete he could hear his own heartbeat. 18 months had passed since Earth went silent. And now humanity was ready to reveal the full scope of what they had accomplished during those months of apparent absence. The alien leaders sat in their designated seats looking nervous and confused because everything they thought they knew about humans had proven to be completely wrong. Behind Minho stood a holographic display that showed the true extent of human expansion throughout the galaxy. During the months of silence, humanity had not retreated or disappeared, but had established hidden bases and research facilities and defense networks in over 200 systems. The aliens stared at the display with growing amazement and fear as they realized that humans had been everywhere and watching everything. Minho activated his translator and spoke in words that would reshape galactic civilization forever. For 30 years, Earth has been preparing for this moment, when we would reveal the truth about the forces that have been manipulating your species into endless conflict. The holographic display changed to show microscopic images of the parasitic organisms that had been controlling alien behavior. These parasites have infected your populations and altered your brain chemistry to increase aggression and reduce empathy and compassion. The alien leaders began to murmur among themselves as they recognized the symptoms Minho was describing. Your recent wars and territorial disputes were not caused by natural disagreements, but by artificial manipulation designed to generate the psychic energy that these parasites feed upon. Admiral Unji stepped forward and activated a second display that showed the massive human fleet that had been hidden throughout the galaxy. The Solar Defense Force consists of over 3,000 warships and 10,000 support vessels and 500 orbital installations scattered across known space. The aliens gasped in shock because the human fleet was larger than all their combined military forces. But our purpose is not conquest or domination, but protection and healing for all species that have been infected by the parasitic influence. Yunji manipulated the display to show human medical facilities where thousands of freed aliens were receiving treatment. We have successfully removed parasites from representatives of 12 species, and the results show that your natural behavior is peaceful and cooperative. The alien leader from Rigel Prime stood up slowly, and his voice shook with emotion as he spoke. If what you say is true, then my people have been living as slaves to these parasites for generations without knowing it. Dr. Jihoon moved to the center of the hall and activated medical scanners that could detect parasitic infection in real time. We can prove our claims by examining any volunteer who wishes to know if they are currently infected. Several alien leaders stepped forward immediately and submitted to the scanning procedure. The results appeared on the main display and showed that 8 of the 10 volunteers carried active parasitic infections. The infected aliens stared at the scan results with horror and disbelief as they realized that their own thoughts and emotions had been artificially controlled. Jihoon spoke gently to reassure them that the condition was treatable. The removal procedure is completely safe and painless, and you will retain all your memories, but you will think more clearly than you have in years. The first volunteer was the delegate from Vega Prime, who had been one of the strongest supporters of the invasion of Earth after the 30-minute treatment procedure. He looked around the room with tears streaming down his face. I can see clearly now, and I understand that everything I believed about humans was planted in my mind by the parasites. He turned to President Minho and dropped to his knees in a gesture of apology that surprised everyone in the hall. Please forgive my species for what we tried to do to Earth because we were not in control of our own actions. Minho helped him stand and placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. There is nothing to forgive because you were victims of a force that has manipulated the entire galaxy for thousands of years. The other infected aliens immediately requested treatment, and within hours the atmosphere in the hall had changed completely. The freed aliens spoke with wonder about how different they felt and how peaceful their thoughts had become. They began to remember times when they had acted with violence or cruelty, and realized that those actions had not reflected their true nature. The delegate from the Centauri system spoke for all the freed aliens when he addressed the human delegation. How can we repay you for showing us the truth and freeing us from this terrible influence? President Minho smiled and activated a final display that showed the location of the parasite controllers in the dark space between galaxies. You can help us find and stop the source of the infection so that no other species will have to suffer as yours have suffered. The display showed massive organic structures floating in the void between star systems, and they pulsed with an evil energy that made everyone uncomfortable. These are the parasite controllers, and they have been spreading their influence throughout the galaxy for over 10,000 years. Admiral Yunji stepped forward with determination written on her face. The Solar Defense Force is prepared to lead a joint expedition to destroy the parasite controllers, but we will need the support of all free species. The alien leaders looked at each other and then at the humans who had saved them from a fate worse than slavery. The response was immediate and unanimous, as every freed species volunteered their fleets and soldiers for the campaign. Within days, the largest military force in galactic history was assembled under human command and preparing to travel beyond the galaxy's edge. The expedition consisted of human warships and alien vessels working together. For the first time in thousands of years, Der Haywan had developed weapons specifically designed to destroy the parasite controllers, without harming the countless other life forms that lived in deep space. The journey to the controller's location took 3 months, and during that time humans and aliens worked side by side to prepare for the final battle. When they reached their destination, they found structures so massive that entire fleets could have been lost inside them. But the combined force attacked with precision and determination, and the parasite controllers were destroyed completely within hours. The psychic screams of the dying controllers echoed across the galaxy, and on thousands of worlds, infected aliens suddenly felt their minds clear for the first time in their lives. Wars that had raged for centuries ended overnight, as species realized they had been fighting artificial enemies. Trade and cooperation flourished as the natural, peaceful tendencies of most species reasserted themselves. Earth became the center of a new galactic civilization, based on mutual aid and scientific advancement, rather than conquest and exploitation. President Minho stood once again before the Galactic Assembly, but this time, the hall was filled with friendship and cooperation. The day Earth went silent was not the end of human influence in the galaxy, but the beginning of a new age of peace and prosperity for all species. The aliens had feared that silence meant humanity was preparing for war. But the truth was that humanity had been preparing for something much more difficult and much more important. They had been preparing to heal an entire galaxy and free billions of beings from an influence they had not even known existed, and, in the end, perhaps that was the most human thing of all, to become powerful enough that mercy was always the first choice, rather than the last resort.